The biggest thing that we're called to do as human beings is to love one another and to increase your capacity to love and being able to feel that love for other individuals. That's just a wonderful thing.
And you receive too. You receive a lot more than you give.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes.
I, I have the company of right now more than 300 children every day. And the love they show, what more can I ask of life?
What is up, Impact Heroes? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Ornelas. Thank you for spending some time with us today because we know time's a valuable resource and we're going to make it worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you, not just for listening, but for who you are. I know you're sparking change to make the world a better place every day, and I am humbled and grateful for your efforts. It takes all of us doing our part to spread positive change, and that's what this show is all about. Motivating you with stories of struggle, courage, and hope to empower you to make a difference in your life and the lives of others.
In case you missed it. There's no greater power than love, and you can always do anything. There's nothing that we can't do. Even if you just do something small for your neighbor, for the person sitting next to you, for the person who lives next door to you, even if it's bringing in their groceries, even if you just open the door for somebody at a restaurant.
Available everywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome back, Impact Heroes. Today we have the pleasure of speaking to our latest iSpark Change social impact hero, and he is a special one indeed. Our guest today is dedicated to the welfare and empowerment of economically and socially disadvantaged populations in India. He's a businessman, academic, and philanthropist who has also been recognized as one of the world's leading social entrepreneurs. I'm excited about that. He's won the, get this, Indra Tan Award, NYU Stuart Satter Social Entrepreneurship Award, American India Foundation Spirit of India Award, Millennium Award, Gopio Community Service Award, and the Kerala Cultural Center's Lifetime Achievement Award, just to name a few. His foundation has initiated numerous projects in poverty alleviation, education, healthcare, lead poisoning prevention, women's empowerment, and press freedom. That's a lot of impact. And if that wasn't enough, he even founded the Shanti Bhavan School in 1997 to help provide free education to socially disadvantaged children from pre-kindergarten through college. And since then, it's provided quality education and support for children and has broken the cycle of poverty, get this, for over 15,000 lives that have been positively affected as a direct result of their intervention. So please welcome the empowering, dynamic, and empathetic author, philanthropist, and founder of the George Foundation, Dr. Abraham M. George. Abraham, welcome to the iSpark Change podcast.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you for this nice introduction. I'm happy to talk to you, and hopefully I have something for the listeners.
Oh, I'm sure you will. That I'm not worried. That I'm not worried about. I'm sure they'll draw from your wisdom for sure, Abraham. So in that introduction, as I was putting it together, I was like, wow, that's a wonderful. And I know I'm just kind of scratching the surface, but that's a wonderful body of work that you've done. And so we will get into talking about that for sure. So before we get there, I do want to ask the question that I ask all my guests on the iSpark Change podcast, because we see you as someone who's spreading positive change, someone whose actions have a positive impact on others and in the world and on humanity in general, and someone that we call a social impact hero. So that's an acronym which we may touch on in our conversation. The question I have to you, Abraham, is, do you see yourself as a hero?
Not as a hero. I'm one who is working to help people who are disadvantaged socially and economically. Um, I happen to work in India. I'm an American. I've been living in America for the last 56 years, but nowadays I live mostly in India. So my work is here for the last 30 years.
Gotcha. Okay, so definitely heroic by our definition. I will say it's that isn't something that you just happen upon, out of nowhere. So what got you on this path of really focused on helping others and doing this type of work to, with disadvantaged, individuals?
To answer your question, allow me a few minutes
Oh
because
yeah, take your time.
uh, there's a little story. I was born in a southern state in India, and I was an officer later on in the Indian military facing the Chinese in the Tibetan border. And there, soon after the Chinese invasion in the 1960s, I was sent up there to establish gun positions. I was in the artillery officer, and in doing that, blowing up all these rocks to establish the gun position, I got blown up, and I escaped death. And I asked myself at that point, why did I escape? Because if I was a fraction of a second late, I would have been killed. I happened to detect the problem, and I jumped, and I got myself saved. But I was also affected by some things that I read. You know, this is going back almost 60 years. I'm not a young man anymore, but at that time I happened to read Albert Schweitzer's book. Albert Schweitzer went to Gabon, Africa, and he worked among the poor tribal people in a no man's land in the forest, and he did wonderful things. He won a Nobel Prize, and he still has his hospital. He's passed away some years ago, and I was very moved by that. It was actually at that time it was very romantic, reading about his work, living with animals, among the animals, and doing your own thing in a forest. I made up my mind after the accident that at some point I must make use of my life, a purpose to my life. And that purpose I felt was to help people who are deprived. At that time in India, there were a group of people, some 200-300 million people, who are called the untouchables, or the Dalits they are called today. They are treated very badly. They live in single room huts, broken down, and they are mistreated. Actually, they don't have any dignity of their own, and they are economically deprived. And I felt that maybe at some point in time I should devote my life to helping those people gain social justice. I was motivated by social justice just as much as I was motivated by alleviating poverty. So, to cut the story short, I decided that I first make some money. And at the early age of 22, I came to America, did my studies at NYU Stern School, as you said, and I had my own business and so on. But all along, my goal was to make as much money as I can to start on in my social ventures. And at the age of 49, I felt I was getting too old to do this kind of work. I returned. I returned to India almost 20-25 years after I left, and went to this village where I am talking to you from. It's a remote village, one of the poorest in India. I'm among the poor people. All around me are huts. This is a school called Shanti Bhavan. It's a school for children for the poorest of the poor. They study with me, study in the school from the age of 4. And we carry them all the way to college and then to their jobs. And some of them are studying in the United States. I want to say some of them are at Ivy League schools like Princeton and Dartmouth and Stanford and so on. And
Wow.
this has never happened. And that is taking children from the poorest of the poor and transforming them and to be successful. So this is my story in a nutshell, why I started and where I am.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love the fact that thank you for sharing. I love the fact that first of all, you felt that calling at a very young age, right? You felt that calling at a very young age, and that, years later, you stuck through it. You stuck to it, that you didn't say, oh, well, now I'm comfortable. I've made some money. I can go a different way. You said, nope, I'm still going to go back and do what I had, essentially promised myself that I would do all those years ago, which is, very honorable and respectable. So in the time, obviously our hero is a social impact hero. Hero is an acronym in our world where a hero honors their purpose, they engage their audience in their mission. they ripple their message to spread positive change, and they open their heart to the world. So obviously you're honoring your purpose. So what would you feel is your purpose today? And has it changed, or has it always been what it is today?
The purpose has evolved. I certainly wanted to serve people who are deprived, no question about that. And I had seen a lot of poverty, and I had seen the social impact or disadvantage they suffered and the mistreatment of those people. Even today, they are not allowed to come to the section of the village where the upper caste people live. There are I can go on and list number of things they face every day where their dignity is terribly impacted. And apart from the fact that they have no real education, so they remain as labor and so on. So uh, changing their social status was very important to me. Having lived in America and seen and heard about equality and justice for all, the
Hmm.
principles upon which America is founded, those things excited me. They really fired me up. And so I want to come back and do this for these people. But economic issues are equally important. And in fact, I would argue that with economic success, they are able to break the social injustice, not the other way around. Going and preaching about treating people equally often doesn't work. The people who are suffering, they have to be successful. My kids who are now in Princeton and Stanford, they are
Yeah.
not going to be untouchables anymore. Their children are not going to be untouchables.
Yeah.
They are different. So my mission was that. But what I feel terribly important, and I saw that in your website, and that is the word compassion. As a human being, you need to have compassion for people who are suffering. There's no reason why all these people have to suffer. And I would go one more step. Feeling is not good enough. It doesn't do anything for the other person. You have to put it into action. In a book I'm just writing, I coined the word compassion in action, and that is doing something about your compassion and making a difference to the other people, to others. And today, if you ask me what is my purpose, I want to put into effect that compassion in action and make a difference to their lives, and as many as lives as possible, and bring dignity to their lives.
Yeah, I love the compassion in action, because the compassion is one thing on its own. With action, then it becomes so much greater, right? It's easy to say, oh, I have compassion for those people, they're suffering, and I feel something for them. The action is the part that drives the change, right? That impacts them in a positive way, changes their lives generationally, like you're doing for those kids that are, in universities. And that's what really has the big impact, right? The big impact in, that goes
Yes.
far beyond just the empathy or the compassion, that one may feel for another. Yeah. So how have you really got others on board, engaged them in your mission, shared that purpose, and had them align with that purpose? Because with iSpark Change, one thing I've noticed over the past 4 years is that there's a lot of people that want to help. There's a lot of people that don't know how to help or don't know what to do. And that's been a challenge for us in growing iSpark Change, is getting people to, align with our vision and our purpose, and find them. And how has that worked for you over the years in order to
Well,
bring
in my
people in?
case, when I was, I had a company of my own in America, which was modestly successful, and I had made some money, and I thought that was a lot of money, and I could do a lot of things with it. So initially, I wanted to show the world that I, on my own, produce results. So the first 15 years, I didn't go fundraising. I build institutions. For example, the school, which is fairly on 30 acres of properties, and there's a second school opening, which is also on another 30 acres of property. Between the two schools, we educate some 600 children And then there is another 500-600 already graduated, and they are in turn doing wonderful things for their family. So the multiplier effect has spread to, as you pointed out, according to our calculations, some 15,000 people. There are some other projects I do. I take care of 13 villages, certain needs of those village people, especially during COVID time, and old people who don't have any support. They don't have any food to eat, so we serve them food. We build houses for them. So number of things we do to impact people's life, but the main focus is the school, where I love working with the children from the age of 4. We take them from these huts at the age of 4, and they grow up with us. They go home twice a year, but I think of myself as their guardian in some ways, or they call me
Mhm.
dad, but and that's wonderful. And I feel that I can do a lot more if people join me. So after 15 years, now it's 30 years old, this institution. After 15 years, I myself found that I can't expand on my work, and I had some financial losses during the 2008 crisis. So my son joined me. His name is Ajit. He's in Seattle. And he and I launched a fundraising campaign. And today that has really taken on, and we are able to raise money. And a lot of people, well-to-do people, have sort of joined us. But I would say a great number of people are small donors, a few $100 to $1,000 or more, and together with their help, we are building the second. We have actually built part of the second school, and the first batch of 60 children have joined already. And my hope is that during my lifetime, I'll be able to do a few more schools
Hmm.
and motivate others to do it. But to answer your question directly, yes, initially it was my personal help, my personal effort, but today is the help of all those meaning people who have come forward to assist us.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you, Abraham, that was the case for me. It's that
Okay.
for a long time is that, oh, I'm just going to do it on my own. I don't need to ask for help. And we're just in the stage right now with iSpark Change to take it to the next level, that we're seeking investors and to help us move forward with our upcoming social impact social media platform. And we'll talk about that in a sec, but that's where you realize you can't do it alone, right? and
No,
and
no.
and, and I don't think that's how we're meant to do things as a human being, is that we're supposed to support one another and help one another. And the fact that we've started something, it gives others an outlet, like I said, an outlet that they don't know how, or they don't have an easy way. And if they say, oh well, I can donate financially, I have the means to donate financially, and then see the rewards of what that leads to, right? Like, oh, that helps to build a school, and see what happens with the children. And and that is, it's a way for people to be involved. I guess it's a way for people to be involved, and to see that they're making some sort of a difference if they can't. Because not everyone, it would be fantastic if there were a lot more individuals like you that are at a point in their life where they can do that, where they can have the means, and can do all that kind of philanthropy. I think the world needs far more far more.
But Rick, I want to point out something. This might interest you and your listeners, and that is, though the school is in India, I think of it as a global institution where children grow up, and there are a lot of volunteers from all over the world, especially from America, come and serve every year at a given time. 10 to 15 volunteers are here with us, and
Nice.
the children get to meet different volunteers from so many countries. So they grow up, and so then they end up in places like I mentioned, universities like that, and a lot of them were working in Microsoft and other places. This has never happened. Their families have never had education beyond even primary school, I'm not sure. But anyway, what I want to tell you is a statistics that might interest you, and that
Oh
is
yeah, please.
75% of our donations come from the United States. And out of that 75%, some 70% are from individual donors. And most of those individual donors have not seen this place. They
Yeah.
are going by what we tell them and what they see on videos and other things. What I'm so grateful and so amazed is that people in America and Europe too, a certain amount, but mostly in America, they when they see something good happening and they can trust it, trust what we are doing, and
Hmm.
can see the impact, they reach out and help. And this is something I greatly admire in people. So I am an agent for them. I am doing what they asked me to do with their money. So it's nothing, in some ways they are participant in what I do.
Yeah, and that's great that you have an outlet that people can trust and that they feel that they can support because I know there's a lot of people that they they don't necessarily know where they can support. And if they're not involved in a church or some other organization, and then you see some of the larger organizations where you hear, negative press about, oh, where does the money go? And it's going to the, some big CEO and the money's not going to where it should be. And then that turns people off to supporting them and to support, even on a small scale, to support something like you, it goes a long way. It can make it can have a big impact. And that's what's so wonderful
Yes.
about the work that you're doing. So tell us how in the time that you've been doing this work. Okay. So let's say once you started, right, maybe with the school or just started, doing the philanthropy, how have you changed in that time? Because you were always a person that was, I can feel that you were always a person that was humble, grateful, that wanted to help others. Because you went back to sticking to your goal many years later. But how have you grown and changed in that time that you've been doing this work?
That's a very, very good question. I have asked myself only lately how it has changed me. It has changed me. First, I was a businessman in America. I had my own company, and I was, businessmen are tough, right? So, this place, dealing with children and the staff who work, and many of them do the work with me, be a partner with me because they care about the children and they care about the mission. And in their company, I have mellowed and I feel I am a different person today. I am a lot more gentle with them. But that's only one part. But I discovered something about myself, and that is dealing with the children from age 4 and making sure they grow up and be successful. To run an institution and be with them 24 hours a day, 365 days with them, you really can't make an impact unless you love them. And I realized that I'm capable of loving them just as I love my two boys. And I didn't know that I would be that type of person. Today, they call me dad, as I told you,
Mhm.
because I'm strict, but I'm a tough love, and but at the same time, they are free with me. So the biggest discovery I made about myself is that I'm capable of loving them as my own. There's no distinction I feel between them and my two boys. There are many other things that I can talk about, but that's the biggest change that has happened to me.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing that, Abraham. Because I mean, what bigger change can there be in a person than to learn how to love at a greater capacity? I mean, I feel that that's probably the biggest thing that we're called to do as human beings is to love one another and to increase your capacity to love and the free nature of giving that love to other individuals and being able to feel that love for other individuals. That's just a wonderful thing.
And you receive too. You receive a lot more than you give.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
I, I, I have the company of 300, right now, more than 300 children every day. And the love they show, what more can I ask of life?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, One thing we talk about at iSpark Change are spark moments. And these are moments in life where our actions or the actions of another have that initial action has a ripple effect that goes far beyond that initial act. That initial act is just the spark, right? It's just that spark moment. So share a story of, positive change, an example that's an example of a spark moment where someone impacted you in that moment. You didn't realize the significance of that impact, or where you impacted someone else and you didn't realize the significance of that impact until far later.
Sure. Wonderful question. Initially, I thought I was in India to give an opportunity to the children that I bring up to be successful. But I didn't come to India to make them millionaires. By no means. I came to India to give them an opportunity to be very, very successful. And then I realized that that success has to multiply. They have to take care of their families. They have to take care of their siblings. They have to move their parents out of the one room hut into a decent place. They have to provide food rations every month, buy clothing for them, get them medical insurance, and so on and so on. All the things that human beings need to survive on this planet. And then in that process, they bring dignity to their lives because they move into a better living conditions that people respect them. And then suddenly the untouchability starts breaking down. I have so many stories to share with you if we had the time, but I know we don't. How these kids who were born into absolute poverty today are able to completely transform their lives, their families' lives, and multiply that effect to hundreds of others. And, I tell them when they are in school that, listen, you are beneficiaries of people's generosity. And many of them haven't even seen you. Many of them haven't come to Shanti Bhavan, yet they're giving their money. And so you have a moral obligation to reach out to others who come from similar circumstances as you one day when you are capable of doing that. And so I told them that, listen, I'm giving you a mission. You have to touch 100 others in your life, just like you were touched. Not
Wow.
immediately. First, you take care of your own family and then you do this. And if those 100 then in turn touch another 100 each, we have a multiplier effect. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm looking for by having the first school, now the second school. And I hope that in the few years left for me, I'll be able to start a few more, or my son will be able to start. And we would have many, many people who will be able to, young people who grow into good positions in companies will be able to impact. So I can give you a story, but there are so many stories of that kind. Uh, but this is the essence of the story, how they have been able to transform the lives of their families, their communities, and strangers. I asked them, listen, you don't have to help people in India. Go out and help people in Africa or anywhere you want to, where the need is the most. So it
Mhm.
is, we are all part of the human race, and we should reach out to who needs help from us.
That's a beautiful sentiment to charge others with, about going out and helping 100 other people, because that's that's in essence, captures that ripple effect of that spark moment. Is you saying go out and help 100 individuals. Each one of those is that little spark moment that has that ripple effect, like you said, the multiplier effect that can help thousands, tens of thousands, millions of individuals over a lifetime, that you may never know,
That's
and you
right.
just
That's right.
trust that it will happen and it will continue on, and the work continues. So thank you very
And
much for sharing
some
that.
of them might be very successful financially, and they may be able to touch not 100,000s. So we don't know how this is going to play out. But
Yeah.
if they have that heart, they desire, and they have the compassion to put into action, I think we will have a revolutionary change if there are more schools. I feel more schools like Shanti Bhavan that I was able to start.
Yeah, it's just planting seeds. It's just planting
Yes.
seeds that they're going to grow to different levels. One's going to become a huge tree, And they'll all grow in some way, shape, or form. It's just a matter of how big and how far and what that impact will be. And
Correct.
the more seeds you can plant, the better.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
want to motivate. I want to motivate young lot more. Like I was hardly 18 when I had this accident. I want to motivate others who want to do something like this when they become successful,
mhm.
without worrying about blood relationships and so on. After all, we are part of the human race, and we should reach out to those who need help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can agree completely. So before we wrap up with our final question here, Abraham, how can our audience learn more about the work you're doing? How can they support you and find out about everything?
Well, I can give the website, but very easy to find me these days. You do a Google search on my name, Abraham George. Not that I'm very famous or anything. My name, Abraham George, you will run into many, many sites. And from there, you will be able to go to the website, Shanti Bhavan, Shanti, Shanti Bhavan, Bhavan, Shanti Bhavan site. And there you have the donation page, and like any other website, donor page. So the easiest thing for anyone in America to remember is my name, Abraham Lincoln and George Washington,
Yeah.
Abraham George. So
Yeah, there you
you're all
go.
right with that.
Yeah, that's great because those two good men indeed, and you're representing their namesakes very well. So we'll make sure we put all that in the show notes.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you
for
so
sure.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
So one final question here, Abraham, because our goal at iSpark Change is to positively impact 1 billion people within 5 years of launching our upcoming social impact social media platform.
Wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
thank you. So we know we can't do it alone. We know we need the help of impactful leaders like yourself to help show others the way because many people feel, as I once did, that they're too small to make a difference. So I value your thoughts and opinions as a social impact hero. So I want you to peer into the future, peer into the iSpark Change crystal ball, when we're impacting lots of people. What can the world become if everyone starts taking that compassion with action?
There is the answer is very obvious. People like you who reach out to people with the heart to do something or motivate people who haven't thought about helping others. And, you know, possible. So my take on this is that people like you make a big, big difference because you're working through the media to get to them. And if they would listen to you and maybe I have been able to do, then I'm sure their hearts will reach out and help. Small, big ways. A billion is a big number, but it's possible. There are more than a billion people who can afford to help. So I think you are on the right track, Rick, and I admire what you're doing, and I wish you all the success.
Well, thank you very much for that, Abraham. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the work that you are doing and all the lives that you're impacting. We definitely value your wisdom here on the iSpark Change podcast.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for taking your time today to share your heart and wisdom with our audience, Abraham. You came in and you over delivered as I knew you would. Your desire to impact others is evident, and you are filled with love, compassion, humility, and you lead with a heart of service and gratitude, which tells me you're going to continue to have success in all facets of life. And this is only the beginning of your time as a social impact hero.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Impact Heroes, there are stories that connect us all, and we loved hearing Dr. Abraham M. Georges today. Abraham George, you're not only an inspiring and amazing human being, you truly are an iSpark Change social impact hero. We'll see you all next time.
Do you want Rick to speak at your event? Here is what others have to say.
Did not know his story, and it was so inspirational, and his presence on stage, his authenticity was just incredible.
Performance made me feel some type of way. My name is Craig Siegel.
If you're looking for a speaker for your next event, hire Rick. I promise you this, you will not be disappointed.
Visit rickcornelis.com to book him today.
Remember, Impact Heroes, every positive action can be a spark moment that has a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. So go out there and spark change. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, then please smash that 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. We value your comments and we want to hear from you in the community. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the iSpark Change podcast.